I knew they had come back from somewhere warm because the house smelled like coconut oil and lavender again. It was faint, just a trace hanging in the air like smoke after a celebration I wasn't invited to. I heard her laugh before I saw her, that high, practiced giggle she only used when she knew someone was watching. It floated down the hallway and landed heavy in my chest. I was sitting exactly where they left me, on the faded couch near the window, where the IV pole stood like a crooked tree beside me, the window still fogged up in the afternoons. I used to write messages to myself in the condensation, tiny notes like breathe or it's not your fault. Today I wrote nothing. Guess who's back? She beamed, sweeping into the room with gold bangles clinking like applause on her wrists. Her skin glowed. Not the fake kind from a bottle, but the kind that came from days in the sun and nights spent not worrying about chemo rounds. She looked like a honeymoon, a warm hotel, a new dress that still had its tags. I looked down at the fleece blanket over my legs. It still had the hospital laundry tag attached. It still smelled like bleach and uncertainty. Behind her, my father walked in with a duffel bag, not even glancing at me. Just a muttered, "Hey kid," like I hadn't missed 6 family dinners or a month of group chats, like I hadn't given them everything, including the money. The fund had started after my second diagnosis. It wasn't even my idea. My old roommate from university set it up, calling it Hope for Hazel. I remember how embarrassed I was when she first posted the link. I had called her up and begged her to take it down. She told me to shut up and let people love me, that people wanted to help, that it wasn't charity, it was family. I had cried after hanging up. The page stayed up. Donations poured in, some from strangers, most from people I hadn't seen in years, people I thought forgot I existed. It made me feel human again. Like maybe I wasn't just a medical bill in pajamas. But then one day I checked the balance, and it was empty. I thought it was a glitch at first. I refreshed the page, logged out, logged in, checked again. 0.0 funds dispersed to an account I didn't recognize. One link to the family's shared card. When I brought it up, calmly, gently, because I was too exhausted to do anything else, Mom looked me dead in the eye and said, "It's not like you were using it." Then she told me I should be happy. Happy that my sister finally got the honeymoon she deserved. Happy that life didn't stop for everyone else just because mine had. And then she walked out, humming. That was 2 weeks ago. I hadn't said much since. Not out of shock, but because silence became easier than repeating myself to people who had already decided what they wanted to hear. I stared out the window now, watching her SUV pull up in the driveway. The one I used to help her pay for when I still had a job and lungs that worked. She was back from Greece, or Bali, or wherever the background of her Instagram stories was. There had been a photo yesterday, her in a white bikini, toasting champagne, the caption, "Grateful, new beginnings." She never once mentioned me, not the fundraiser, not the hospital, not even the couch I hadn't left in 4 days. And maybe that's when it started. Not the rage, but the stillness. That cold, slow wave of clarity. They expected me to keep waiting here. Quiet. Thankful. But I wasn't the same Hazel anymore. And neither was the fund. My sister left her suitcase unzipped in the hallway. The scent of sandalwood drifted out from between swatches of gauzy dresses and sea-bleached shells she'd probably bought from a vendor on the beach. A tiny satin bag peeked out the corner of the side pocket. I didn't touch it, just stared until my eyes stung. That hallway used to be mine in a way. When I was 13, I painted the trim in secret. Cloud blue, the exact color of the crayon I used to draw my dream house. Dad grounded me for it. I still remember standing barefoot on the drop cloth, palms stained with color, thinking he might be proud I did it alone. But he never looked up from the game. Now the trim was peeling. And they kept forgetting to turn the hallway light on when I needed the bathroom at night. This house wasn't mine anymore. I wheeled the IV pole into the kitchen out of habit. I didn't need it right then, but it gave me something to lean on. Something that hummed faintly, almost alive. The calendar on the fridge still had my treatment days marked in green. 3 of them were crossed out. Not by me. I poured water slowly into the kettle. Noticed the way the handle of my favorite mug, one my roommate gave me, the one with a cracked constellation on the side, had been glued together. Poorly. There was a receipt tucked between the napkin holder and the kitchen wall, probably left there in a hurry, stuck in the corner like a discarded secret. I didn't mean to look at it. I just couldn't stop my hand. I unfolded it. Airfare. 5 nights. Santorini. Booked 2 weeks after the fundraiser hit its goal. Paid in full. I held it like it was burning. The numbers blurred, but the date stayed sharp. They booked her honeymoon the same day I was too sick to make it up the stairs, and slept on the bathroom floor with a towel under my cheek. She walked in halfway through my tea, hair in a messy bun, t-shirt tucked just so, sunburn peeling at the tip of her nose. "Oh, you're up," she said, and walked straight to the fridge. I didn't respond. She popped open a can of something fizzy and leaned against the counter like this was a catch-up coffee with a friend, not a room where a bomb had already gone off. "You look better," she said. I didn't. "You'll like this one," she added, gesturing at the drink. "It's imported." My voice cracked when I finally spoke. "Did you know it was from my fund?" She didn't flinch, didn't blink. Instead, she took another sip. "I thought it was for the family. For, relief." "We all needed relief, Hazel." I stared at her, trying to make sense of the words. She kept talking. "Mom said it'd help if we felt normal again. And you always said you didn't want pity, right?" I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. There was no air left in the room, just the sound of the kettle ticking and the low simmering static in my chest. Then she said it. "It's not like you were going to travel." And just like that, something inside me slipped into place. Not broken, not shattered. Just still. I put the mug down gently. My hand didn't even shake. "You're right," I said quietly. She smiled. Thought she'd won. Thought I was letting it go. She never noticed the way I looked at the receipt again before slipping it into my robe pocket. That night, I lay awake on the couch, phone dimmed in my hand, while the others slept upstairs. Their laughter had faded hours ago, muffled by the walls they didn't know I had paid to insulate. I opened the email app, typed in the name of the original fundraiser host. My old roommate. The only person who had looked me in the eye when I lost my hair and said, "You're still here, and that matters." My fingers hesitated only once, before hitting send. Subject: need to ask about the account activity. Attached: the receipt. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't make a scene. but the clock beside me ticked, one slow second after another. And for the first time in months, I knew exactly what day tomorrow would be. A quiet beginning. Not revenge, just a shift in weight. My old roommate, Cass, replied just after midnight. The email was short, but I read it 10 times. Then I read it again. Hazel, I've already contacted the platform. That money was supposed to go directly to you. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. I'll fight this. You won't be alone. Cassie stared at the screen, the pale blue glow reflecting in the window beside me. The rest of the house was dark, and I could hear my father's heavy sleep down the hall, his uneven breathing and throat rattles like someone half-swallowed by dreams. I sat still for a long time, the cursor blinking like a heartbeat on my phone screen. I didn't reply right away. I just stared at the words, "You won't be alone," like they were oxygen. Because the truth was, I had never dared to admit how alone I had felt in this house. Not just since the fundraiser. Long before. Next morning, I asked for something simple at breakfast. Toast. Mom glanced up from her phone. "We're out of bread," she said flatly, tapping her screen. No apology. No suggestion she'd pick some up. The corner of her mouth twitched like the whole request was an inconvenience. My sister sat on the counter peeling a tangerine, segments, falling neatly into her palm. I almost laughed. Because just 3 days ago she posted a photo of French toast on a seaside balcony. Brioche, orange zest, powdered sugar. The caption said, "Healing looks like this." That afternoon while they were out, something about picking up favors for the baby shower, a reminder that my sister was now preparing to host a celebration for herself again. I went upstairs. I hadn't been up there since I collapsed at the top of the stairs in March. My room hadn't changed much. Still the same pale walls. The tiny constellation stickers still clinging to the ceiling, some peeling at the corners. My sketchbooks were in a drawer, untouched. I hadn't had the strength to draw in months, but I wasn't looking for memories. Was looking for proof. And I found it, stuffed in the back of the filing cabinet in Dad's closet, in a folder labeled travel receipts. Tucked behind flight itineraries and meal vouchers were printed bank statements. My name wasn't on the account, but I recognized the withdrawal amounts, same as the fundraiser payouts. One by one, the deposits came in. $50 from an old teacher, $200 from someone who just wrote, "You've got this, Hazel," in the note line. And then, one after another, the withdrawals, Santorini Airlines, $2,450 Thrala Beachside Inn, $1,387 Island Massage Therapy, $400 Luxury Catamaran Sunset Cruise, $701 I. Traced my finger over each one like scars I didn't know I had. The last entry broke me a little. Honeymoon dinner for 2, $198. Gratuity. Thanks for helping her smile again. They didn't mean me. I took a photo of every page, sent them to Cass. Then I stood in the room for a long time. It didn't feel like mine anymore. Maybe it never had. I opened my closet and found the dress I wore before I lost the weight, back when I still felt like a person and not just a condition. It still smelled faintly like vanilla and wind. I folded it slowly, gently, like something worth keeping. Then I carried it downstairs and laid it carefully in a donation box by the door. That evening, my sister walked in wearing a new gold anklet. "Where's my suitcase?" she asked casually. "The blue one. I left it in the hallway." "I put it in the garage," I said. "Oh." She paused. Don't move my stuff without asking. I didn't respond. She rolled her eyes and walked past. But I watched her feet as she went, tan, bare, glinting in the light. And I thought about all the people who gave $10, $20, $100 so I could breathe easier. So I wouldn't have to choose between medicine and rent. So I wouldn't be erased. The heater clicked on. My IV pump hummed quietly beside me. I opened a new document on my laptop. Title, "This is where it went." And I started writing. Not out of revenge, but because the silence had taken enough. I posted the fundraiser update at 3:17 a.m. Not to call them out. Not yet. But just enough to shift the weight. To those who donated, I saw every name, every kind word. I want you to know I'm still here, and I'm finding my way back. This isn't the thank you you deserve, but it's the beginning. No, one in this house followed the page anymore. They thought the money had done its job, that I had served my purpose, to inspire pity, to die gracefully, to disappear before the credit card bill arrived. But Cass saw it. And so did the others. Within an hour, there were 23 comments. People I barely remembered. People I never forgot. Their messages bloomed on the screen like soft bruises turning to light. Hazel, we never stopped rooting for you. I always wondered what happened. Thank you for writing. I donated after my brother's treatment. You reminded me of him. Quiet strength. I'm so glad you're still fighting. I hadn't cried in weeks. Not since the fever night in April when I thought I might not make it through the dawn. But I cried now. Because strangers remembered me more than my own blood did. The next day, she barged in like she owned the air. Her cheeks were flushed. Hair, perfect. Hands full of pastel gift bags. She dropped one near my legs and grinned. "Look," she chirped. "These are for the baby shower games. I got the scratch-off ones with little diapers printed on them." I stared at her. She stared back. Blinked once. "What?" she asked, annoyed by the quiet. "You know who started my fundraiser?" I asked softly. She scoffed. "Hazel, not this again. Her name's Cass. You met her once. She drove me home from chemo. You told her she talked too loud." She rolled her eyes. "Okay? What does that have to do with anything? She's, the one who raised all that money," I said. "The money you used." My sister's smile faltered. Then she laughed, a light nervous thing that scraped at my ribs. "Hazel, we all raised it. It wasn't just hers. And Mom said we could use it for what?" I cut in. "Your tan? Your honeymoon bed with rose petals on the pillows? Your new beginnings hashtag?" She looked like she might cry or yell. Instead, she said something worse. "You're just bitter because people paid attention to me for once." And there it was. Not guilt, not remorse, but jealousy. I stood up. The IV pole bumped my chair as I moved, but I didn't need it this time. "I was never jealous of you," I whispered. "I just wanted you to see me." She didn't reply, just stared at the space I left when I walked out of the room. In the hallway, I passed the front door and paused. The old mailbox key still hung from the ceramic hook shaped like a daisy. I hadn't checked the box in weeks. I took it. Walked slowly out into the cold. The air was crisp, sharp, like it wanted to keep me awake. Inside the box there was one envelope, no return address. Just my name, Hazel, in slanted handwriting I recognized. Cass. Tore it open on the porch step, hands trembling. Inside was a folded letter. And a check. in case you need to start over somewhere that sees you. I held the check in both hands, heart racing. The amount wasn't huge, but it was enough. Enough for a deposit. Enough for a train ticket. Enough for a door that would open without requiring my silence first. Back inside, no one noticed I was gone. Mom was scrolling through a party planning board. Dad was asleep again, the TV playing a golf replay. And my sister was already texting someone about tablecloths. I sat back on the couch, opened my laptop, typed 4 words. Into the search bar. Studio apartment near hospital. Then I opened the group chat with Cass and a few old classmates. Typed, anyone know a quiet place I can rent short-term? Doesn't need to be big. Just needs to be mine. The first message came 3 days after I moved out. Sister. Hey, can you send me that link to your doctor? I think I have the same mole thing you had, lol, no punctuation. No apology. No acknowledgement of the fundraiser, the bank statements, the honeymoon. The silence I'd left behind like a breath finally exhaled. Just a lol. Like my body had only ever been an inconvenience she borrowed from. I didn't reply. I let the apartment settle around me like fog. I learned the creak of the hallway, board I needed to avoid at night, that the microwave rattled slightly unless you placed your hand on the top, that the woman upstairs watched reruns of cooking shows at 2 a.m. with the volume barely audible, like a whisper between lives. I liked it here. No one asked me what stage I was. No one called me brave with that pitying smile. No one told me to be grateful. Cass visited again, this time with takeout. We sat on the floor because I still didn't have a table. She unwrapped the chopsticks carefully and handed them to me without fanfare. Your post went viral, she said, chewing a dumpling. Blinked. What post? She handed me her phone. It was the update I had written on the fundraiser. Someone had shared it on Reddit. Now it had over 40,000 upvotes. Comments poured in, some angry, some heartbroken, some disturbingly familiar. This happened to me too. My mom spent my cancer fund on renovations. I gave $100 to a friend once. He bought sneakers. Hazel, if you read this, you did not deserve that. I see you. I stared at the screen, fingers hovering just above it, like touching it would break whatever spell this was. I didn't even write anything that specific, I whispered. Cass shrugged. Didn't need to. That night, I lay awake listening to the fridge hum. I thought about the people who had messaged. I thought about how many of them had stayed silent in their own stories for years. We don't speak because we're taught not to ruin the picture, but I was never in their frame, and I had finally walked out of it. The second message came the next morning. Mom, your sister said you posted something? What is this about money? We already told you it was all for the family. Call me. This isn't fair. I didn't call. Fairness had been drained with the IV bags and swallowed with every pill they'd never paid for. I didn't owe her a response. She already had the one thing I had stopped offering freely, my silence. Instead, I opened my email. The fundraiser platform had reached out again. They offered to launch a follow-up campaign, this time with full protections, direct disbursement, and press interest. I sat with that for a long time. I didn't want more pity. But I did want one thing, to make something beautiful out of what they left behind. So I clicked yes. But this time I changed the title. Not Hope for Hazel. Just Hazel's Apartment Fund for a Life She Owns. The bouquet was delivered 2 days after the second fundraiser hit its goal. I opened the daughter mid-morning and saw a delivery guy standing there, squinting at a slip of paper. "Hazel?" he asked. I nodded. He handed me a glossy arrangement wrapped in waxy tissue. Orchids, white lilies, soft yellow tulips. The kind of bouquet that pretends to be tender but costs just enough to soothe someone's conscience. I peeled back the card, with fingers that barely shook. Thinking of you, proud of you. Love, Mom, Dad, and Avery. No apology, no phone call, no return address. They didn't know I'd moved. The florist had forwarded it from the old house. A mistake. A lucky one. I stared at the petals as they began to tremble in the draft of the hallway. They didn't know where I lived anymore, and for the first time, I wasn't sad about that. The new fundraiser was different. It wasn't a plea. It was a blueprint. Cass helped write the pitch. I added a photo of my window view. Sheets on a line, sunset between buildings, and the constellation sketch pinned to the wall behind me. I didn't even show my face. I didn't need to. The message said, "I'm not trying to start over. I'm trying to begin for real this time. Thank you for helping me build something of my own." It hit its goal in 6 hours. Strangers sent messages. For your first art desk. So you don't have to choose between meds and rent again. Not charity, just making things right. A retired woman from Vermont sent a note with her $40 donation. I had breast cancer at 32. My cousin stole the money. I stayed quiet for 10 years. You didn't. That matters. I printed that one and taped it inside my closet. The third message came after I'd posted a thank you update. "Sister, OMG, you didn't have to go that far. Now everyone thinks we're monsters. Mom hasn't stopped crying. Are you happy now?" I didn't reply. But I whispered, "Yes." Not because I wanted them to suffer, but because I no longer did. That silence I'd carried for months, the one that weighed more than the illness, it was gone now, replaced by something steady. Something mine. I bought a second-hand desk online. When it arrived, it was scratched and one drawer stuck, but it fit by the window. I set my sketchbook on it. Bought a little plant to sit beside my pencils. I drew for the first time in months. Not medical forms. Not memories I was trying to hold on to. Just a window, and light, and a girl sitting on a floor with a candle lit. Beside her, the fourth message was a voicemail. Mom, her voice tight and performative. "Hazel, sweetheart, we didn't mean for things to get so big. You're welcome to come to Avery's baby shower. You don't even have to bring a gift. Just show up, okay? It's important that the family be together." She sounded like she was reading, a script someone else wrote. I didn't save the message. I didn't delete it either. It just sat there, like dust on the shelf. Something I could look at, but didn't have to hold. That night, Cass brought over pizza and we sat on the balcony. She asked if I was going to the baby shower. I shook my head. "I've already given enough," I said. "They just didn't notice until I stopped." She nodded. We clinked mismatched mugs of tea. Down below, someone's laundry fluttered on the line. Above us, the stars blinked faintly, like they'd just woken up. I didn't need an apology. Didn't need to go back. I had a desk, a door with a lock, a sketchbook half full of beginnings. And for the first time in years, I had peace. The baby shower came and went. I saw photos, of course. Avery wore pastel pink, standing beneath a balloon arch that read, "Blessed beyond measure." Mom posted a carousel of pictures to Facebook, captioned, "A day of family, laughter, and healing." I was tagged in none of them. They had set up chairs in the backyard, the same patch of grass where I used to lay under the maple tree after school, book pressed to my chest. In the corner of one photo, I spotted the blanket I'd used during chemo, now draped over a bench, folded like something decorative. No one asked where I was. Or maybe they did, and were told I was busy, or dramatic, or resting. And maybe all three were true. That Sunday, I opened all the windows. The breeze came in cool and steady, lifting the corners of papers on my desk, ruffling the edge of the plant, leaf that now leaned slightly toward the light. I pulled on a sweater, made tea, sat by the window as light stretched in long golden lines across the floor. For the first time in years, I didn't feel watched. Not by guilt, not by pity, not by a family who only remembered me when it made them look good. My sketchbook lay open, on the desk. On one side, a drawing of a house on a hill, windows glowing from inside. A small figure on the porch watching stars blink on. On the other, a caption I wrote without thinking. Some homes you build with wood. Others you build with silence finally broken. I smiled. The last message came on a Wednesday, a plain envelope in the mail. Inside, a single photo. Me and Avery. We were maybe 7 and 9. At the lake, our arms covered in mud, laughing on, the back in Mom's handwriting. We didn't know how to love you right. I don't expect forgiveness. I just hope you're okay. No return address. Just the weight of words far too late. I placed the photo in a drawer, not out of cruelty, just to stop carrying it in my chest. Later that night, I walked the 3 blocks to the corner shop and bought myself a slice of carrot cake. Not to celebrate, just to mark something. A quiet ending, a clean fork, a breath I didn't have to hold. When I got home, I left the door unlocked for an hour, just in case anyone came. No one did, and I didn't mind.